Okay, this is a reasons question involving finding the slope of a line that passes through 2 points. So they're giving you guys 2 points, and you need to find the slope of the line that passes through those points. There's several ways to do this problem. One way is to go to the back page of your Regents, where you'll find this graph, this grid, and make sure you copy down the points on your grid so you don't forget. I have the point -6, 1. Okay, -6, 1. And I have the point 4, -4. Be really careful. Make sure you write them down correctly. Now, what some students do when they want to use this scrap paper is they make a grid that takes up the entire page. But these numbers are very small. I only need to have about 6 spaces on my grid. And you don't even have to be that careful about it. Okay, I take my ruler, and first I draw an x-axis using only part of the page, not the whole page, because I want room to answer other questions on this scrap paper. And now I flip around my ruler and I make a y-axis. And now I've only used a small portion of my grid. And I'm going to plot my points. So I start at the origin, and I need to find my x value is -6. So I think about, well, where on my x-axis is -6? It's to the left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. And the y value of this point is +1. So the y value is +1 over here. So I'll go over to -6, +1, and I'll put my first point. The next point is +4, -4. So that means I'm going to go to the right 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. This is where x is equal to +4. And then down on the y-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where y is equal to -4. So the point for -4 would be right over here. Now this is when I take my ruler and I connect the 2 points. And I'm going to use my graph to answer this question. This could be a multiple choice question. It could be a part 2. If it is a part 2 question, you run the risk of losing a point because you're using your scrap paper, which is not graded. But if this is the only way you know how to do the question, at least you're getting 1 point. So now I'm going to look and I'm going to figure out, well, if my slope is equal to the change in y over the change in x. This formula is given to you. I'm looking for, if this is 1 point on my graph, how do I get from this point down to this point? Well, what I would do is I would go down on my y-axis. I'd move down. So I'm going -1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. And I'm going to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spaces. Be very careful when you're counting. Right? You're counting the number of squares. So to get from here all the way to here, I'm going over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spaces. Some people get confused over here. There's a total of 10 spaces. So I'm going to the right 10. So on the x-axis, I'm going in the positive direction. And I went down 5. So on the y direction, I went -5. So if I use my slope formula, my slope is equal to the change in y, which is -5, over the change in x, which is 10. And now you can simplify this answer in your calculator, and it's always best to put it in simplest form. I would have, turn your calculator on, don't forget that, clear it out, -5 divided by 10. I hit enter, and then I go to math, enter, enter, and I get my simplified fraction. That means that negative 5 over 10 is actually equal to negative 1 over 2. So that should be your answer. Now, if you want to try to guarantee that you get full credit on this question, you just figured it all out, you should write down the slope formula, and you should write down the distance you went down, which is negative 5, over the distance you went to the right, which is 10. And then you would just say, well, that is equal to negative 1 over 2. Okay, the negative sign can be outside the fraction. You could write it as negative 1 over 2. But that's the same thing as 1 over negative 2. But the simplest form is usually written in this way, with a negative sign on the outside, and your negative slope, your slope is negative 1/2. This should get you full credit, even though it is a part 2 question, because you're showing that you know what the formula and you know where it comes from. In our next video, I'll show you how to use the formula to answer this question and guarantee yourself full credit on this question.